See, I still see all of this as just, if you just take away space and make it all a lot more like right here, then none of this stuff even needs to be argued about, really, you know.
Oh, if you didn't have a philosophical bias to object to you being at the center, then when you were to look out and see that indeed you're at the center and everything is rotating around you,
You got to come up with some, yeah.
your math wouldn't reflect the ridiculousness of trying to misinterpret that. You would be just, oh, there are basic forces, Coriolis, centrifugal, inertial, Euler. Oh my God, look, everything's rotating around me. When I mathematically describe it, that's how it works. Instead, they're met with the, well, let me invert everything I see so I can input it into a coordinate system via translation and non-loss to a heliocentric coordinate so I can be more comfortable with the measurements that I'm taking. What?
The classic bait and switch.
Yeah, it's a religion.
So
one world religion at that.
yeah, if anyone has a cosmological belief and they're looking for a velocity component that can get you some velocity, but it's going to be an exact amount, you can't lie about it or transform into a different reference frame and say that it's more than it is.
I could lend you some.
Those are the only stipulations.
Well, that was an awesome Prezi there, Al.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we will be using it to continue on and build the baseline for future Prezi. So, quick recap of what we covered. Right, it was null hypothesis. Ether does exist, or sorry, null hypothesis. The ether does not exist. Hypothesis: the ether does exist. So I would say that we falsified our null hypothesis, right? If vacuum properties are empty and nothing exists, then there can't be anything in there causing impedance. Well, that's not the case. So on the face of it, it's already not off to a good start for our nully. But what we learned about was the framework of interpretation and what that means in terms of a reference frame as well for the mathematical aspect of it, and how it is a physical medium with actual physical measurable properties.
I always give this analogy when I'm talking about the ether. For those people that have a hard time wrapping their minds around a lot of these big, scientific words that we're hearing on the show today. I know to you guys, a lot of them, we've been doing this for so long and been studying it, it's kind of like we've learned a different language almost. So to put it into layman's terms, I like to say that the ether, think of a painting. It might be a stream with some, grass, some flowers, some trees, maybe some buildings, whatever you want to make your painting. Now, all those different paints are put on there, and that's the reality of that painting. That's the physical world of that painting. But underneath that is a canvas. And without that canvas, none of that stuff holds together. The painting doesn't exist. So the ether is the canvas. You never get to actually see it. The painting's covered. There's no way of seeing it, but it has to be there. For these certain things to take place and for all that stuff to be there, there has to be something back there holding it all together.
No, that's such a great way to phrase it. It's very simple and easy to understand, very intuitive.
Yeah, it's just, and the scientific ones will get what Alan and Shane are saying. Yeah, dang, you guys are smart. This is awesome. This was well needed addition. You guys taking over Glowbusters. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, sir. We're honored to be here.
Honored every week, man. Yo, so if if there are measurements of motion, I know the previous like iteration and generation were resistant to measurements of motion because as a flat earther, you know the earth is not in motion. So like, oh, measurements of motion, get away, right? I don't want to see those. No. Look deeper at the measurements, see what they're covering, see where they're coming from, see how long they've been measured, see what the tools are they're using to interpret the measurements, and then you can reinterpret those measurements as proof for our model, right? There is no way for a uniform rotating sphere to cause currently as the current model, right? For them to incorporate the current empirical measurements of motion. It just does not work. Right? So either they can come up with an Aether globe model where that would interpret a varying velocity component at the same latitude, or they can currently just say that doesn't fit their model and these measurements only fit our model currently. So super important, I think, to not ignore evidence that could help support your position.
Yeah. Well said, Jay.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get into this like with the mentality of like, oh, you know what explains this? The ether for sure. It was like it was very backwards. It started off with like hammering out all the relativity stuff, and then interferometry was kind of last because it was like, you know, the scariest complex subject, and plus it was surrounded by Bob measuring, you know, Earth ball rotate. So I was like, shoot, don't want to accidentally rotate the old ball or whatever, you know. So like looking into it, it was like, you know, that was like it was hard to figure out what was going on, but then it became super easy because uh once I got to the Sagnac effect, mainstream they were like, well, it could really be anything. It could be this, could be that. I'm like, oh, they don't know either. And then that led me back to, I'm like, well, what was it originally? What did Sagnac think it was? And it was like optical vortex. What? There's an ether vortex. Like, yeah. So going through the history of it, you know, took me back to like how to make sense of the measurements. And the big problem seemed to be them trying to cram the philosophical belief system that the earth is in motion into the measurements. If you could get Earth's velocity into your measurement, I mean, dude, you were going to be the king, right? But nobody could do it. So they had to make Einstein king. They had to just make a fake king. They were like, here, random guy at the patent office. Do you want to be king? He was like, yeah, sure. Sounds dope. I just work here at the patent office. You want me to be the sole proof that the Earth is in motion by asserting that you can't feel it, and that's what motion would feel like? All right, sign me up.
And they were so hardcore to find that measurement of elusive Earth's motion that when Bob measured not that, they were like, yeah, we got it. Frame him. Frame it. I don't care what it says. I don't care. No, just put it up there. Everyone just keep saying thanks, Bob. It'll catch on. Right. So like that's how they got it. They just propagandized the results and repeat. No one actually thought, what does it mean? Like anyone who says thanks, Bob, as a glober, I bet you couldn't spell interferometry, let alone understand the implications of said measurements empirically, dynamically, or otherwise.
Dude, it's so easy to just be like, thank you, Bob, though. It's a nice little layup.
And then say nothing else, throw the little GIF up, dude, and be done. As a glober, you win.
If you believe in ball rotate, but you've never felt it or like looked into it, but you're pretty sure that it's rotating, right? And you turn on your TV and you see that a flat earther measured ball rotate, dude, you never need to look into ball rotate again. Like you are set, dog. Like, oh, dude, somebody believes something different and actually measured the thing that I believe in, but don't know anything about. Thank God, dude. Thank God I don't believe in anything different. That would have been so embarrassing if I was like, hey, you know what, guys? It's looking a little stationary around here. like, what are you, a flat earther? Did you know some guy once thought that and he actually measured ball rotate?
That's what that became, and they had to meme it because otherwise, if they had let him look at the results, I think would immediately analyze it and been like, "Oh, look at this! It's called the ether wind or the ether drag, and it's been measured since 1888. And there's 68 other experiments of other people writing papers measuring the same thing, doing different interpretations. Oh, I'm not alone. There we go. What is this? The proper scientific framework to interpret these results. Amazing, and they couldn't have that, right? So." Thanks, Bob, is what it became, and nobody looked any further.
No.
Yeah, we took it back, though.
No need to.
That's the effort, right? To get people to take it back. But to get that to happen, people need a deeper understanding of the thing, the event, the measurement, and the framework from which to interpret it, right? So that's what we're trying to do today, I think, is to provide people the tools with which to properly interpret the good old thanks, Bob.
It'd be nice to do it again, to get a hold of somebody. If you guys know anybody out there with one of these expensive, people call them
Nah,
tools, I call them toys.
nah, dude. We'll build our own. That dude on YouTube built his own for like $1,000 with copper pipes.
Yeah, we need to get back out there to Colorado and go way up on the mountain and then go way down the mountain and on the same latitude and recreate it again. Because I haven't heard of anybody else doing that. I bet there's a couple of them out there, some physicists,
Oh
that
yeah.
had one sitting
So
around.
so
They tried it.
that's what Galev did, and the other guy, Miller. When they went to altitude with their interferometers, they measured a variance.
Like super hard measure. Dayton Miller, particularly 5,200,000 different corroborative measurements across different types of parameters over I don't know how many different months. And then Gallup did I don't know how many different measurements. It's always been confirmed. I mean, we could confirm it as well for ourselves, but we were just talking to Eric about what it would take to build a Michelson-Morley interferometer.
Mhm. Maybe one of these days. That's a serious machine to build. Get it
But
all lined up perfect and everything.
man, what I don't get is someone's doing it with a prism and a light through a window in 1700. Dude figured it all out. Like, what? Same thing, same principle. Dude had it. It blows my mind still.
All right, so we're gonna wrap up here. Check out the chats.